Joining me now is Democratic Senator Laphonza Butler of California. She is a longtime member of Kamala Harris's inner circle. Senator Butler, welcome to the Saturday Show.
Thank you for having me.
So first things first, Donald Trump says he's better looking than the vice president. Come on now.
Stop it. The fact that we're even having that as a conversation is an insult to the intelligence of the American people. And frankly, just you must be Stevie Wonder could see that the vice president is head and shoulders above the former president.
And we should say that Donald Trump is still speaking at his rally in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. He started at 4:40. Some fella came in to talk at the middle, but you see, he's still going on. In my little soliloquy about how the Republicans need an intervention, or how Trump needs an intervention, I played the clip of him saying he's entitled to personal attacks. I've been watching every Trump rally, especially since the June 27th, or actually since President Biden got out of the race. And I'm beginning to wonder if the American people are tiring of this politics of personal insult instead of presenting policies that would make their lives better.
Jonathan, look, it's clear to me, and I think to all of folks who've been seeing President Trump, former President Trump, in this performance, that he really only has the one card to play. He only has the card of division and hate and ridicule and dismissiveness. And that's the card that he continues to trot out over and over and over again. He has yet to talk about what he actually plans to do about inflation and rising costs that American families are facing. He has yet to say anything except repeal the Affordable Care Act. He is yet to talk about anything more relevant to migration and our border security than say build a wall. And that was 8 years ago. What does he have to say about how he's going to move the American people forward is a mystery to all of us. But that's all he's got.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's stop talking about him and let's talk about the vice president, who actually yesterday talked to the American people about just a piece of her economic plan, how she wants to lower costs for Americans. There are folks who are praising the housing policy, but it seems like everybody is slamming the price gouging policy. Give me your reaction to what the vice president has proposed, what she proposed yesterday.
Look, I watched yesterday the vice president put forth an ambitious vision for our country, an ambition to build an economy of opportunity, tackling key economic drivers that working families are facing every single day that bring tough choices, the rising cost of health care, the rising cost of food and basic needs, and let alone the rising cost of housing, where so many working Americans are finding themselves having to live in their cars, not being able to afford an apartment or a suitable place for them and their families. And so, yes, she set forth an ambitious agenda, but we also know that in this candidate and in the vice president's vision for this country, she sees and hears everyone. These are issues that are not just driving hard choices for Democrats. They're also driving hard choices for Republicans who live in Ohio, for Republicans who live in Arizona and Michigan and Wisconsin. And what she's presenting is a plan forward on how we can tackle those very issues that are bringing about hard choices for American working families. She wants to make a signature of her presidency rising rate, creating a stronger middle class. And I think Americans across the country, Democrat, Republican, Independent, will celebrate a leader who sees an opportunity to address real problems and has the ambition to try to do something about it.
I got to we have very little time. I got to get you on two things.
Yep.
One very serious. Donald Trump said that abortion is not that big of an issue, but a poll from the Kaiser Family Foundation of 3,900 women shows that 74% of them believe that abortion access should be legal. 70% say it should be a federal right. Am I right or am I wrong? Reproductive rights, reproductive freedom is going to be a driver of this election.
Jonathan, you're absolutely right. This election and every election since the Dobbs decision was made, since Roe was stripped, the rights of Roe were stripped away, the American voters have made that very clear. Women, men, and everyone in between.
Real fast, it's going to be your first convention as a sitting United States Senator. What are you looking forward to?
I'm excited about regular people being a part of their great democracy, putting forth a candidate they believe in. The cheers, the chants, the dances, the good times, the seriousness with which Democrats are going to be talking about the future of our democracy. It just is incredibly exciting to me, and I can't wait to be a part of it.
I can't believe you didn't say it. No amount of pride of seeing a longtime friend accepting the nomination as president of the United States, first black woman.
Yeah, that's icing on the cake.
Oh, okay.
That's icing on the cake, Jonathan.